I think you need a bigger boat.
It
Is
was.
what the quote is.
I think collectively we should all get a larger sailing vessel.
Yes.
I think we need the Titanic, is what he said.
I think the
Get
line
on
was
board.
actually, I think we need a smaller shark, I think was the line.
Not. And that's all we can do so that we don't get copyright strike. Today, we are covering one of the most well-known horror movies from the 1970s and probably of all time here on Hometown Ghost Stories Horror Movie Reviews. I am your host, Rob Coakley, joined as always by Dave Wilkins.
Hello, Rob Coakley. This is one of my all-time favorites, so I'm excited to do it.
And we are also here with Jesse Wilkins.
I am here. I noticed that you love this movie so much that you took down the poster behind you of Jaws.
It was never a permanent spot for the poster, but it would be appropriate to have it up right now.
Wow.
It would. If you could just hold it next to you for the entire movie review, I think that would be appropriate.
Actually, just hold it in front of your face and make it look like the shark's mouth is talking every time you say something.
That'd be kind of funny.
That's what everybody wants. So we are going to do a deep dive into this movie, but before we do, Dave, why don't you hit us with a synopsis?
Jaws, 1975, directed by Steven Spielberg. When a young woman is killed by a shark while skinny dipping near the New England tourist town of Amity Island, Police Chief Martin Brody wants to close the beaches, but Mayor Larry Vaughn overrules him, fearing that the loss of tourist revenue will cripple the town. Scientist Matt Hooper and grizzled ship captain Quint offer to help Brody capture the killer beast, and the trio engage in an epic battle of man versus nature. So, this movie came out in 1975, and ever since it came out, there's been an epic battle for whether or not to classify this a horror movie. And I think the people who don't want to classify it a horror movie are dumb, because this is essentially a monster movie. You have some serious fears. You have aquaphobia. You have fear of sharks. You have fear of the unknown, the fear of whatever, the fear of the abyss, how deep the ocean is and whatnot. And the fact that you really can't hunt this thing like you could hunt an actual serial killer, like a human or something. It's totally different. There's so many different elements of fear. To not call this a horror movie is pretty dumb, in my opinion.
I think it's absolutely a horror movie. I mean, it plays like a horror movie. You can't really call it a slasher, but I mean, you have kills happening throughout the movie. The only thing that kind of took me out of it a little bit, where I was like, I could see why people are not calling it a horror movie at certain points, is the music gets very almost Disney-ish when they're sailing around.
Oh my God. This was what I was talking about to you guys. I said earlier that I have what I thought was a hot take for this movie.
You definitely should have said it earlier.
No. This
I didn't mean to steal your thunder there.
No, you're fine. One of my biggest problems with this movie is the music.
One of the most epic scores of all time. Like,
we're not talking about just the Jaws song. So you have the dun, obviously, where that is iconic.
The score refers to all the music in the
right, but I'm not talking about that one theme song in particular, which is obviously iconic. It's a scary sounding song. Everybody, whenever they think of sharks, they start thinking of that song. It's the first song everyone learns how to play on piano. You just find two low notes and you pretty much figured it out. It's that's obviously great, but I'm just talking about in different parts of the movie, the music kind of takes you out of the horror element of it because it just didn't really fit with a horror movie. I don't think it was a bad score. I think it was composed beautifully, but it just kind of didn't fit with a horror movie.
I don't think it fit the movie at all. My note is it's too whimsical. Like, especially for you that don't agree with me and Jesse, go back just to where the three men are on the boat going after Jaws, and there is.
I don't think they had the Mexican hat dance. I really don't think that was part of the score.
It might have been more scary.
It might have been more scary. This was the most whimsical song I've ever heard. I was just like, what is this music for this? And it's actually going to deduct points because it just takes you as I was watching it, I'm like, I've never noticed this before, but it kind of takes me out of the scene a little bit because it's just too upbeat. What are we doing here? So
It was sort of, I mean, it was during Pursuit. It was kind of an adventure. I mean, I see what you guys are saying, but I think what Williams, which is the guy who did the score, what he was trying to do was, it was sort of like an adventurous scene, right? I understand it. It's also 1975. Movies hit a little different. It had more of like an old school feel to it, almost like we were watching like a play, like the score for a play or something like that. Less so than a modern horror, which this obviously isn't. So, this I'm pretty sure the score won awards, and it's it's so epic. I don't know, the whole thing in general, like the people talk about this as one of the top scores in the horror movie genre. So,
it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit enough for me.
The thing is that, like, I think when they say that this is one of the top scores in the horror movie genre, I think they're specifically just talking about the main theme.
Right. The main theme is most of the movie, and it's just so simple and it was so effective that it just really,
really we don't have to dwell on it, but to Rob's point, my own point, it just, the rest of the movie, in points where it should have been more intense kind of music, it sounded really I don't know, whimsical, I guess, if that's the word that you use there, Rob. I guess I'll agree with you there. It just didn't really fit with the moment, and it didn't build that tension like it could have if we're using a more intense kind of song in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but I think that this movie, I mean, for me, the score didn't bother me. It's I thought it was a good score, especially the theme song. It's just really cool. But there are a lot of points with this movie that hit for me, and a lot of things that we can add together, which I think make this movie so great. And this movie did such a good job doing what so many other horror movies do so poorly at, and that's showing the monster, right? And with this movie, you don't even see the shark until, I think, 2/3 of the way through the movie. I don't know exactly when. It's at least halfway. And I know it was at least halfway because Steven Spielberg said, I will make this movie, but under one circumstances, we don't show the shark for at least the first half. He said, if I can't get that, then I'm out. So they gave him that. And I think it's so effective because the anticipation of the monster, you haven't seen it. All you see is what it's been leaving in its tracks, the trail of body parts and the trail of blood and horror. And the anticipation of what this monster actually looks like is so much scarier than if they just shove the monster in your face the entire time. And the great thing that they do is the POV shot of, the shark's point of view. Instead of showing the actual shark, they're showing you what the shark is seeing, which I think is another really effective way of showing the monster without showing the monster. And so many movies get this wrong.
I completely agree. I'm just kind of chuckling a little bit because it's like, we can't show this thing for the first half of the movie, but we're sure as shit going to put that thing on the poster. And you know what? We're going to name the movie Jaws. Yep. So you know exactly what you're getting into.
Well, I'm not saying like that it was supposed to be a big mystery as to what the monster was. Like, we all knew it was a shark, obviously, but that's not the point. I think the point is more so if you see too much of the monster, the more you see of it, the less scary it actually is, even if it is a gigantic shark.
Agreed. And when they did show it, it was a huge positive because I think the scene was iconic where he pops out of the water and the sheriff just kind of steps back and is just like, what the hell did I just look at? Like, he doesn't even say a word. He just comes back, and there's the best line in the entire movie is, we're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
But I think they miss it. There should have been a little sound effect there, a violin screech, something that was just like like a little scary moment. It was great as it was, but I feel like when that shark came out of the water, it just kind of like bobbed out. Just it could have been a big jump scare moment. It wasn't. I know this isn't a jump scare movie, but it could have been one of the most horrifying moments of any movie. And I'm sure for a lot of people it was, but I feel like it could have been a little bit better had there been some sort of a sound when he came out of the water. It wasn't even a big splash. It was just literally just bloop.
Yeah.
And he just went back in the water,
I like this, and I noticed that too, that there wasn't like a jump scare noise, or there wasn't like a jump scare there at all, and it was just the shark. And what I liked about it is it made you say, "Holy shit!" Like, was that it? was that I mean, obviously it was, but it was like, oh my God, that was it. It was right there. And it was like, it didn't give you that tell, like, here he is, like jump in your face. I don't even think that would have been a cheap jump scare. I think that would have been a good jump scare, but I liked the way it was, because it was that you still had that holy shit, but it was holy shit for another reason. It was like, whoa, that was it. There he is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like it's just a little nitpick, and I still like it the way it is, because you're like, well, okay, now, all right, let's go. Here it is. So,
But we're getting too far into the movie right now. We should backtrack to some of the stuff that happens before. And the opening scene is, it just brings you right back to the 70s movies. We talked about this a couple movie reviews ago with ADR.
Mhm.
It's just like, but you can forgive it because it's the 70s.
Mhm.
But the ADR is so bad in the opening scene of this movie. But it's just like, 70s. I'll deal with it. It's fine.
It was consistent back then too.
Yeah.
It wasn't like some movies were good, some movies were bad. That's what it was at the
It
time.
sounds
That is
bad,
just
yeah.
that is just what they were. That's what they sounded like. So obviously, in the lens of history, we can look back and say that sounds funny, but they were all like that. So I think it would be, you could count that as a negative if some movies were way better at it and others weren't. That would be one thing, but this was across the board for that time. But the setup of this movie, like the setup of this plot, was really good. It wasn't just shark kills people and people panic. There was some politics in it. Not necessarily like a political message that they're trying to push, but you had the mayor who was like, we have to have the beach open for 4th of July. And the cop was like, you can't, there's a shark killing people. And you had that turmoil between them that gave a couple layers of depth to the story that were really good. And then you had the inner conflict of your main character, the cop who was, he didn't want to open the beach because of the obvious. And then you had the mother of the child who was way too young to be a child of a woman that old. That was like,
Dave, that woman was 24. That was 1975. That's what they looked like back then. Have you ever seen a yearbook?
This like little old lady is like, my 10-year-old boy.
Yeah,
shakes her cane.
She was 24. She had that child when she was 14. Like,
I know.
That's just what people look like. I want to go back to the mayor, because I mean, you kind of get it to an extent, and they kind of play him off pretty sleazy for a little bit of it. But the part where he turned into like almost a mob boss, and he's walking down the beach and he's just like, go get in the water. People need to see you. Like, that was like my favorite part with the mayor. It's just like out of nowhere, he's just like forcing people and their kids to go in the water.
Yep. And but you, like you said, you kind of understand where he's coming from. He's like, we live on, I don't know if it was an island or whatever it was, a peninsula. And I know it was Nantucket, but it was a fictional place.
Amity.
But what? Amity, right? Yeah, but yeah. So they're like, this is our livelihood. 4th of July is our livelihood. This is when we make all of our money. We can't just shut the beach down. You're gonna kill the economy. And the sheriff was like, better than killing the people who make the economy work. But yeah, you kind of get where he was coming from, even though it is obviously a sleazy thing to do. But I just thought that one layer of depth really helped make this movie more interesting.
I was going to mention it because it was a personal friend, but I have a friend who died from a shark attack. It was one of the only ones that happened in recent history. It was in Cape Cod a few years back, and their town, he didn't live in the town, but the town where he got attacked and killed by a great white shark, it turned into Jaws. It turned into the mayor wanted, or I don't know if it was the mayor, but the town wanted to shut the beach down, and all of the people were like, no, you can't shut the beach down. It turned into the literal Jaws movie of the politicians wanting to keep it open because this is their economy, and and other people were, showing up to town halls and having this big debate about what they can do and why they shouldn't shut it down. And it was absolutely crazy. Like, it literally just turned into the actual Jaws movie. I think last year or the year before. What's that?
They ended up hiring Quint to go take care of the shark.
Well, they ended up doing a special on the whole showdown on Shark Week. Actually, I think it was last year or the year before. And it was basically because it turned into the shark movie, and obviously the tragic story of Arthur, who lost his life in a shark attack. So
yeah, remember that. That was sad, crazy too.
it was insane. It was insane. I just remember like we went to work and we had heard about the story on the news, and we're all just kind of like talking to each other at work. I'm there with my brother-in-law, and we're like, Arthur didn't show up to work today. I'm like, oh man, that sucks. You know, so here's some guy got eaten by a shark. I'm like, yeah, that's crazy. And then we got the call like, hey, listen, that was Arthur. We're like, damn, super sad. But not the way you'd expect people to go. We've lost friends and employees before, but never to a shark attack. That's just insane.
Right. Yeah, that is absolutely terrifying. A terrifying way to go. But yeah, I mean that's kind of like the obvious reaction that a town would have for a situation like that. It's like you got to shut down. You have to shut the beach down. If there's a great white shark eating people, you have to shut the beach down. It's like I understand the economics of it, but it's you can't do it. But so this is when we kind of get introduced to one of the greatest characters in horror history, Quint. And he was the classic, it seems like so tropey now, but the classic nails down the chalkboard to get everyone's attention in the room. It's like, what? They did it. But I mean, this was, again, we're talking back 1995. This was before all the tropes turned into tropes. But this was a great introduction to this character. He was perfect. I love the camaraderie from the three main characters that we had: the cop, the scientist, and the rugged fisherman. And because they're all such different people, and the way that they get along when they finally do get on the boat to go hunt the shark, some of the best scenes in cinematic history. They're so good. So good. My favorite is, I know we're jumping around here, but on this topic, one of my favorite scenes is when they're on the boat and Quint finishes his beer and crushes the beer can, throws it. And then the scientist is sitting there with his little Dixie cup of water, and he finishes it and squishes the Dixie cup.
That was great. Quick correction before everyone comes for you in the comments. It was 1975, not 1995. You said 95 earlier.
Don't worry. They're all coming.
We're so sorry. For what?
I said 95?
You just did. It was, you obviously misspoke. You obviously know what year this movie came out.
Yeah.
You're obviously not a huge piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesse's the one who said the infamous quote wrong, so they're all going to come for Jesse anyways.
I was paraphrasing.
They'll never let you live it down. Have you read YouTube comments before?
I don't actually. I think it's unhealthy to read negative YouTube comments, and you screenshot them and send them to us anyway. So look at this idiot.
Oh, they fuel me. That's the difference.
Yeah.
I want to go back because I want to talk about the whole part where the three of them are on the boat together, but I want to hit on some other things. One of my
was it when he said I might need a bigger boat?
Yes.
Okay, I love that quote.
Yeah. I think you need a bigger boat.
It was. I think collectively we should all get a larger sailing vessel.
Yes.
I think we need the Titanic, is what he said.
I think the line was actually. I think we need a smaller shark. I think was the line.
Well, they had gotten a smaller shark. And this was some of the best acting in the whole movie. I'll let you get back to your point, Rob, but I want to bring this up before I forget. But I thought the acting from the police chief was absolutely phenomenal in this. So you had Chief Brody, and he goes up to the shark that they caught. I think it was a tiger shark. Could have been a dolphin. I think they caught a dolphin, and they had it strung up. And his acting was so good because he really portrayed like the relief that the police chief would feel in that scenario where they got the shark that ate the people, and it really looked like life was going to go back to normal right there. And then immediately you had the scientist come in. He did a great job in that scene too, where he doesn't give a shit that they're trying to get this photo op. He's just measuring the mouth. He's like, this ain't adding up. It was just such a good scene, such a good, well-acted, well-written scene.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, let's continue with after they string up the shark, and the scientist is like, we need to cut this thing open. We need to see if it actually ate people. And they go, and he finally gets Brody to go with him to cut it open. My memory, I've seen this movie so many times, but it's been a while since I watched it. So we did this rewatch. Man, I thought they cut it open with it was still strung up, and you saw everything fall out of it, which was not the case. They kind of lay it on the ground and take everything out. And my favorite thing that came out was a rocking chair. Like, what? This thing's just eating rocking chairs.
How did it get
I always remember the plate, but I did not remember the rocking chair, so that caught me by surprise.
That's so fun. I must have just missed the rocking chair come up, because later on in the movie, when they are all sailing around, they're just kind of shooting the shit, and Quint is like, I saw one of them eat a rocking chair once.
Oh,
That line is in the movie.
Maybe that's what I was talking
Yeah,
about.
they pulled out a license plate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
so that's what I was
remember.
talking about.
Okay, exactly. I don't remember them
Yeah.
pulling out an actual rocking chair. I feel
That's
like
what
that
I
would
was
have been a little
talking. That's what my
ridiculous.
note is for. It's
Okay.
because I was like, ate a rocking chair. Like that's what he went with to like impress them that this thing ate a rocking chair.
Yeah,
So,
I'm like, I don't remember that at all. What do you? But I didn't want to call you out because I was like,
I told you my
maybe I missed
notes are like just the worst written notes. Do you want to know what my first note is on this movie?
it.
It is titled "Pedophile in the Pond" because of the one dude that's like, as the shark's coming in, he's like looking over. He's like, "Hey kids, come over here. I'll take care of you." And it just like it was really creepy the way he was doing it. Like, what are we doing here? Like this is like the C version of the white van. It's like, come get on my raft, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't go on that raft. Don't do that.
Don't do it. Don't do it. The candy's not real. The I want to bring it back to we were talking about that potential missed opportunity for a jump scare with that one scene, and whether you thought it was a missed opportunity for a jump scare or not, there was a great jump scare in this movie, and that was when they were scuba diving, and it was Hooper who was down, and he was investigating the boat that had sunk, and the guy's corpse the face just shows up in the porthole there was really, it makes me jump every time. I've seen the movie 100 times, and every time I see it, I still jump at that scene. Absolute great jump scare.
Great scene. No, that is a great scene. But let's get into the best scenes of this movie. Let's get back to when the three of them are on the boat going after the shark, because there's really good stuff in here, but also the worst cut in the movie of all time. Maybe not of all time. I'm being a little facetious, but there is a cut in this movie that blew my mind. And I have no idea what Steven Spielberg was doing, but there was one point right after one of the first times that they had seen the shark and like we're going after it. Quint and Brody are yelling at each other, and Quint says something to him, and Brody's responding. And it's just a hard cut in the middle of Brody's sentence, just out of nowhere. Just like he's just like, now we're here on the boat at night. It's just like, dude, I want to finish hearing the rest of this conversation, and you don't even let me finish hearing this sentence. I just blew my goddamn mind that Steven Spielberg would do that hard of a cut in the middle, like he was trying to hide something there. Like, oh shit, we didn't get a really good cut. We got to cut the best one that we have because there's a screw up at the end or something. I don't know. Just seems so out of the left field to me.
Maybe it was something where the line was one thing and the guy said something. I don't know. Yeah, why wouldn't you just shoot that shot again, right? If it wasn't an intentional cut, maybe it was an intentional cut. Maybe it was his idea of being artsy. I don't know.
Yeah, it just came off weird. And one of the best scenes in this entire movie is when Quint starts telling his tale of what happened to him and his crew in the Navy during World War II, where the ship gets sunk. Basically, he's surrounded, him and his entire crew, by sharks. Sharks are picking him off one by one, and it's like a really long story, but it's a little hard to understand. And because his dialect is just so, you really have to listen. And my brain during this was right at the end. I just was like, I just really wish at the end of this 5-minute story, Brody just went, bro, what? I have no idea what you just said.
That would have been great. But what I can say about this movie is it has some of the best character dialogue. It's not only really well written, and I don't mean like well written plot. The screenplay was really well written, and the actors did a great job delivering this screenplay. So you have, when those two things work in tandem, you usually end up with a great product, and that's what we got here. Even with Quint's dialect, it was hard to understand at times, but it really sold his character, so much more. And I think that it wouldn't have been the same if he didn't sound like that.
I agree, and it makes you lean in to listen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. The classic like hardened sea captain when he comes in and just bashes the radio with a baseball bat. Like just so good. So good. Just everything about him. He just seemed like the guy you'd meet down at the dock, It's just regular old sea captain.
Yep.
Absolute badass too.
We haven't mentioned it yet, but as is the case with all of our horror movie reviews, we are going to spoil it. So if you've been sitting around for 49 years. You're still waiting to see Jaws. Don't get mad at us for spoiling it, because we are going to do that. And I'm prefacing that because I want to talk about how sad and awesome Quint's death is, because it was one of the most disturbing things I saw as a child growing up. This was what makes this movie hit, is that it's such a brutal scene, absolute brutal scene. And Quint, poor Quint.
Yeah, it did not go well for him in that particular scene.
Recipes Quint.
But yeah, so I mean, with that said, the crescendo of this movie hits really hard. Really, it stays a horror movie because it's a horrifying situation. It's the climax of a monster movie, but it's also it also sort of hits like an adventure movie. You know, you're at sea, kind of like a pirate movie almost, and they're battling the big sea monster. So that's another aspect where I kind of understand where the people are coming from when they say this isn't a horror movie, but that is a peak monster climax of a horror movie. And it was even with the resolution was you kind of got hints of it early on, how this problem was going to be solved, but you didn't realize it until it happened. Then you kind of pick up on the hints in retrospect, like all the oxygen tanks, those things will blow this boat to the moon or whatever the line was and whatnot. And that's how they end up beating the shark.
Yeah, they do really good foreshadowing to the point that you just, like you said, you need a second watch through to really catch all of it. Even stuff that like you should know is going to come into play, like the shark cage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, he's loading it up, but you kind of forget about it until it comes back up again, right? Like it's there. But for me, even seeing this movie again, I was like, oh yeah, they're showing the shark cage that he is going to use. And my last note is actually on when he was getting into the shark cage.
Mm-hmm.
As he's getting in, Brody looks at the scientist and goes, glasses. And he's like, oh, because he has to take his glasses off to put the gear on. I don't know if you guys caught this, but as soon as Brody grabs the glasses, did you see what he does with them immediately?
No.
Puts them in his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, that's somebody else's glasses. What are we doing?
Yeah. I'd be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Strange thing I noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed this too, and I don't know if it was special effects or if this actually happened. Did you guys notice there was a shooting star in the movie? I noticed go right behind. They were on the boat. I'm like, that was a shooting star. I'm like, did they really add in a shooting? Because it's such a weird thing to add into a movie like this.
I bet it happened.
I wonder if they just actually caught it. I want to Google it. And find
I
out.
bet it actually happened, because that's like, why would they do that? Who cares? It's not like maybe if it was a space movie, maybe I could see them doing that, but why would they do that? And they are so common at night that I bet it is.
Apparently it's a debate. The debate over the shooting star in Jaws continues, with some claiming that they were real and others asserting that they were CGI effects. Evidence suggests that the shooting stars were likely created through CGI, with visual effects artists analyzing the motion blur and lack of distortion. So looks like the experts are saying it's probably fake.
They add some extra. The budget was $7 million. So
and they just decided to do a shooting star for no reason.
We gotta burn some of this budget money.
Need more whimsical to this. Add more whimsy to this movie.
Maybe they did the $7 million budget and they were like, oh yeah, it's going to be a lot of shark in this movie. Here we go. And then Steven Spielberg was like, no, I want no shark. They're like, I guess we'll do shooting stars then.
Or they gave him $7 million and they expected to see more shark, which was true. They did expect there was supposed to be more shark, but he was like, no, I just need this shooting star.
Yeah.
$3 million.
Now, according to this, meteors have appeared in other Spielberg films, becoming a bit of a trademark for the director. Oh. So I think it was actually CGI. He says, quote, my dad took me out to see a meteor shower when I was a little kid, and it was scary for me because he woke me up in the middle of the night. We lay down and looked at the sky, and I saw for the first time all these meteors. What scared me was being awakened in the middle of the night and then taken somewhere without being told where. But what didn't scare me, but was very soothing, was watching the cosmic meteor shower. And I think from that moment on, I never looked at the sky and thought it was a bad place. So I guess he adds it in a few of his movies. Now, every time I watch a Spielberg movie, I'm going to be looking for meteors or shooting stars.
Yeah. He probably does it on all of them then.
Probably.
There's another great debate and mystery with this movie, and that's the Lady of the Dunes.
Oh yeah, we talked about her.
We talked about her before, but yeah, I mean, not to not to get into it too hard again, but they think that the victim of a serial killer was seen in this movie shortly before she died wearing the same clothes. So
I was just reading a book about Hatton Clark, who claims that he was the one who killed the lady in the dunes and gave a sort of a creepy detail about the murder that wasn't left in the police reports. That police, one of those details that the police had kind of strategically left out.
Yeah.
Specifically about the way that her body was positioned in the sand, where it looked like she was kind of doing a push-up. And he had mentioned that, but in reality, she wasn't doing a push-up. Her hands were chopped off.
Ugh.
But yeah, they think, I think the theory started with Joe Hill. I think Joe Hill he had spotted it for the first time. I might be wrong about that, but it had been mentioned that they had recognized one of the extras from what she was wearing, and the clothes that the extra was wearing were the exact same as were found sitting next to, I believe, the Lady of the Dunes. So pretty creepy stuff. Pretty creepy
really
stuff.
wild.
They think they may have actually ID'd that body after all this time.
That's crazy. That is crazy. So what I was going to ask is that theory that she's spotted as an extra in this movie that was never debunked, because I know it was a popular theory.
I don't know if they actually went in and debunked it yet or not, to be honest.
I don't know if they have or can positively ID her. And the reason being is her head was chopped off and her hands were chopped off. And they had actually cut off up to they also cut off one of her forearms, which makes you think that maybe she had an identifying tattoo on her forearm. That's the reason
okay. That makes sense. That makes sense as to why they wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
But,
which is also why they think it might have been a mob hit. So they think that this lines up with maybe a Whitey Bulger type kill. And they would do that all the time. When they would kill people, they'd chop off the hands and chop off the head, so that way the body can't be identified.
yeah, it was a mob thing, but it wasn't just the mob that would do that. That's most experienced killers would do things like that as to not identify the body. So who knows?
Right.
Anyways, Jaws. Jaws was doing that because he was hungry.
You think it was the shark?
Yeah, maybe. There were some pretty good kill scenes in this, even though you couldn't really see the shark. One of them that was great was on the 4th of July when at the crowded beach and those teenagers get attacked, and you just see one of them gets attacked, and you just see the chomped leg floating to the bottom of that was eerie, real creepy stuff. But is there anything you guys wanted to hit on this movie before we get to some ratings?
No, I think it's time to get into the scores.
Still holds up. It was just as fun as when I first watched it. Still had scary moments. And I thought I was going to watch this and see animatronic shark and think it was super corny. And there weren't a lot of scenes like that where I was like, it doesn't really look too real. I think it holds up. I think it holds up still to this day. It's just a great movie with great acting. And for me, I got it at a 4.9.
That's fine. Yeah, this is a horror icon, one of the absolute best horror movies of all time, and it definitely paved the way for that genre of movie, even though that genre of movie is really not good otherwise. This is like the best one, and then everything else that follows is just not good.
Very few good shark movies out there.
I honestly can't think of a single other shark movie that's good besides Jaws. So
I enjoyed Deep Blue Sea. I think we had mentioned this recently. I enjoyed Deep Blue Sea, but I enjoyed it so much that I don't want to watch it again because I'm afraid of how bad it might be.
Yeah.
And I mean, nothing tops Under Paris.
I haven't seen it.
Movie of all time.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
I saw a headline today, I believe, where it said, Deep Blue Sea 20 years later is still the third best shark movie of all time. I'm just like,
maybe it might
why
be.
is this? Why are we?
I just saw so much hype around Under Paris. We're like, this is the best shark movie since Jaws. I was like, oh shit, I'll watch it. I got a minute into this. I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not.
It's like, dude, I mean, the best shark movie since Jaws doesn't say much, because it's like, aside from Jaws, it's better than all the other ones. Like, okay, that's not that hard to do. But this movie's unique because it's so iconic, and it was such a great movie for its time, and it holds up, like Jesse said. But for all of its sequels to be bad, and then for it to pave the way for a bunch of shit movies, is kind of a weird trailblazer. But I just think the movie's so iconic. For me, it's a 5-star. Acting across the board is great. I love the score, and I thought it was really well written, and I don't have a single negative really about it.
4.7 because the score is not great. It's fine.
Now, mind
Not
you,
great.
before everyone comes for us, the main theme from Jaws is iconic and phenomenal.
Yes.
Love it. all day long. The rest of the music was kind of wacky, but that's that. So,
Oh, speaking of wacky, just one last scene. When Brody's getting on the boat and his wife's upset and she runs away, it's the most comical runaway. Like it's like would be in a parody of Jaws. Like you would think it would be the parody of like, for Scary Movie or something. Because she just overdoes it so much. And I was like, bro, you got to shoot that scene again. That is
that scene, that scene through and through was kind of weird. Like so they give a hug goodbye, and it's not a long goodbye. Like she's like, all right, well, whatever. She's doing her thing. And they give a hug and a kiss or whatever. And then from the boat, everyone on the boat's like, come on, let's go. We're burning daylight over here. Let's go. Get on the boat. Say goodbye. Hey, you can do that shit later. Like, dude, it wasn't a big goodbye. It's not a long drawn out thing.
Yeah. And then she says, it just starts flopping around as she's running. I was dying.
Love that.
Yeah. Well, that's our review of Jaws. Let us know in the comments what you think. Are you going to yell at Jesse and me for not liking some of the score of this movie? Do you agree with Dave? Is it a perfect 5-star movie? Let us know. We'll catch you here next time on Hometown Ghost Stories. Peace.